I've played over 1,000 hours of Valorant for this exact moment, my Immortal RANK UP game. But before we dive in, who am I? I'm KGL, a 17 years old content creator with one insane goal: to reach the VCT pro scene and compete at the highest level of Valorant. What makes me different? I only play Initiators, and I play them damn well.
Nice.
Over to cap.
Holy shit, I'm so fucking
Flashing out. 3, 2, 1. Thanks.
I didn't know they were inside.
nice.
Everyone was main when I left.
Cypher's gonna be late main. Cypher's gonna be late main. Cypher late main. Late main. Late main. Late main.
Nah, KO, you're actually him.
One of the first milestones on this road to the top is reaching the top 1% of players, and that means hitting Immortal. This video breaks down the exact match that got me there. We'll review key rounds, go inside my thought process, and compare what I did and what the pros would have done in the same situation. And of course, I'll show you what I still need to improve to close the gap. Let's get into it. We loaded into Ascent, and honestly, I had mixed feeling about this map. I used to play KO here, but without info tools, it was hard to solo initiate. That's why I picked up Sova. But even though he was one of my most played agents, something always felt off on this map. Ever felt like that? You're playing an agent you know inside out, but it just doesn't click. Let's break down the specific moments that caused me to struggle and figure out why. Now, let's get into the game.
There are better ways to survive than your path.
Oh, I'm so ashamed.
The round that sets the tone, and the team that wins it takes the first step towards victory. I went for a standard buy, ghost and 2 shock darts. I started the round on the B side since I believed it was the strongest side for Sova. But after the recent nerfs on the B main wallbang, was that still the case? More on that later in the video. Anyway, back to the round. I held onto my record dart because on pistol round, 99% of team just hard rush a site with all 5 players. So I saved my dart to kill people through smokes, not for info. And that's exactly what happened. KO knife A main. I started sprinting to A, and while rotating, I threw a dart that landed as I arrived in Haven. This dart was good since it could be shot while rotating. It basically didn't slow me down. I dropped into the Heaven smoke, and I knew I had a timing. I killed Vice, but I got traded right after. Still, we won the round. Now, at first glance, this looked like a clean round. But here's the thing. What if I hadn't gotten that kill? Suddenly, my play would have looked way worse. So let's break this down properly. I rewatched this round and compared it to a VOD from Derek. Same situation, he started on the B side, he rotated A, he got to Heaven at the same time as me. But the difference, he didn't use his recon. And let's see why. When a team rushed 5 men onto site, they are likely to kill your entire team before you arrive. If you shot your dart too early, your whole team died and you wasted your utility. That's exactly what happened to me. Everyone on site died, and my darts meant to help them only helped me. That's a problem. So here's the takeaway. When you're on pistol round playing against a likely eco rush and you hear early contact on one side, just rotate fast, save your recon, and make sure more than you can benefit from it. That's what separates a good Sova from a great one. Now let's move on to round 2. And trust me, there's a lot to unpack here. I bought an Iris and a heavy shield. Remember that because it's going to matter a lot in just a second. The enemies looked like they were doing the same A push as before, so I repeated my previous play. But no, it was a fake, and they went straight back to B site. Going out on site already.
Spike planted.
Lips on sides. Stairs.
Holy fuck, you wanted me like a bitch.
2 sides.
One enemy remaining.
Less than no.
Close that, right? Close right.
Nice.
Nice.
Very close. And honestly, if we didn't have better guns and shield, we might have lost that round. Now, it's easy to say, hey, check stairs, kill Reyna, problem solved. And yes, technically that's true, but let's zoom out. There was a deeper mistake here, and it started with my Ares. Here's the issue. When you're holding an Ares or Odin, you don't want to be the guy picking corners. These guns are slow and awkward. You need to crouch, aim down, it's a mess. And that's why these weapons shine when you're anchoring, holding angles, not retaking them. And in this round, I was forced into a retake with the worst weapon for it. So yeah, Midas wasn't just a bad crosshair placement, it was a bad weapon choice. Now let's bring in Derek again. Same situation, same round, but here's what he did. He kept his ghost instead of buying a gun. Why? Because in round 2 you don't need 5 rifles. At high ranks, team usually go for 3 buys and 2 pistols. That's exactly what Derek did. He picked up a phantom from a teammate, passed it on the next round, then bought a guardian himself. And even though he didn't win the bonus, he still had money for the next round and managed to take down 2 weapons, which was really good. So what's the lesson here? You've got 2 smart ways to play round 2. Keep your ghost, buy a shield and be ready to snowball the economy, or if you do buy, choose versatile weapon like the Stinger, not the Ares. I learned it the hard way, but now you don't have to. Before we move on, if you enjoy this breakdown, drop a like, leave a comment and subscribe to the channel. These videos take a ton of time to make, so it really means the world to me if you support the grind. Alright, let's keep going. Let me be real with you. The rounds leading up to this one weren't worth watching. I was tilted, picking dumb angles, got caught off guard, tasted impact. Even when we won, it wasn't because of me. But then came round 6, and finally I started to wake up. This round I pulled out the Odin. Now for me, the Odin is kind of my comfort weapon. When I don't want to overthink it, I just ping a dart, wallbang through half the map and raise someone walks into it. This was the first time I used it in the game, so no one expected it. Plus, I switched things up by starting A site instead of B. This round mattered a lot, because if we lost it, we would have been on Nico and the mantle would have dropped hard. This was the kind of round that could flip the entire momentum of a game.
Adapt or die! Spike planted.
Are they good?
Reveal the area. There they are. On.
Brimstone site.
We'll catch
Vice
them.
versa, yeah.
I'll find you.
I'm half. I'm sicking actually. I'm lucky.
Last player standing.
I did massive damage with Odin, but we lost to a defuse with 0.94 seconds left on the clock. That was brutal. You might think it wasn't your fault. You dealt damage, you did your job. But here's the twist. Even in rounds like this, where it feels like you played well, there's still room to improve. Let me show you how. Mistake number 1, my utility usage. Here I'm especially talking about my shock darts. I noticed something while watching pros like Sassy or Derek. The thing is, they're using a lot more their shock darts and they're using them differently than me. If you watched a lot of pros VOD, you probably noticed that they're using a lot their shock dart at the start of the round, especially on the B main entrance. This shock dart is very useful. If someone is pushing here, it deals a lot of damage. Plus, it can destroy cipher trips, so you can go on lurk. Moreover, their second shock dart usage is also different than mine. They often use their second shock dart to deal damage while the enemy is planting. In this round, we can see that I pulled out the shock darts in the middle of a fight, and that's a problem. It can help you, but in most cases, it's just useless and often leads to a death. Here, it's my Sage death. I pulled out the shock darts while looking at the KO to deal damage to him, but consequently, he got time to kill my Sage and waste a little bit more time on the clock. Mistake number 2. Reloading the Odin. I had just unloaded a full belt, and instead of pushing up with my team, I stood here, reloading, which gave Brim just enough time to ult us off the spike and win the round on time. In that kind of clutch situations, you don't reload. You swap, drop your Odin, pick up a rifle, and get on that spike as soon as possible. Mistake number 3, tunnel vision. We killed the enemy way earlier. That was my cue to grab her rifle and get serious about the retake. But I stayed, stuck in my Odin plan and didn't adapt. These little decisions, split seconds 1, stack up. And yeah, I may have done damage, but those 3 mistakes cost us the round. We somehow clutched up the eco, but let's not sugarcoat it. Even though we ended the half 8-4, I was still playing like trash. And that scoreboard, yep, it showed. Derek had clean kills, solid utility. Me, I was existing. So what about the rounds after that?
Spike down A. Last player.
Don't have flash.
130.
Feeling sight.
Oh my god, fucking
His
god. Shit,
when you say the smoke. I completely lost my focus. My aim was off, my utility was late, I was second guessing everything, and all I could think was, no way. This can't be my rank up game. This can't be the one that gets me to Immortal, not like this. Then we hit round 17, and let me paint the picture for you. Scoreline, I had 5 kills, 12 deaths, 11 assists. We were somehow still winning, but barely. My team was carrying hard. The enemy team was adapting, rounds were getting tighter, and it was clear, if we wanted to close this game out, I couldn't be dead weight anymore. That was my moment of truth. Either I stepped up and became the player my team needed, or I dragged them down with me. And beyond that, this wasn't just about a round, it was about how I would remember my rank up to Immortal. Because if I lost this game, I wouldn't remember the scoreline. I'd remember that I let the pressure win. And if I won this game like this, I wouldn't feel proud. I'd feel like I didn't earn it. That's where everything needed to change. I had to reset, log in, start playing like a real server. Because Immortal doesn't care how you feel. It only cares how you perform. We decided to go B. My teammates did their job. We secured B main. I made my way onto sites. Rushed, closed the market door. And then I froze. No smoke city, no smokes market. I was exposed from both sides, and we hadn't even planted the spike yet. Suddenly, it was chaos. The enemies panic retook. They didn't wait, they flooded the site before we wouldn't even breathe. I couldn't pull up that. No time to set up utility. Right there, right then, it was raw mechanics. 90. Nice.
Nice, well played.
It was 11-6. We were just 2 rounds away from Immortal. And me, I was finally showing up. The round before that, I tagged KO with my drone and killed him with my ult. We ended on A, but still lost the round. Still, it was only 11-7. We were ahead, and more importantly, I was finally stepping up, and that momentum, I carried it into this round. Now, here's the problem. We were on an eco, but I felt confident. I pushed mid solo while the rest of my team gathered A main, baiting rotations. And me, I slipped into this corner, and then this happened.
Did you see anyone mark?
Yeah, KO was like... Brimstone went down, and with him, the team's only smoker. Even better, he dropped a phantom. Just like that, I went from a stinger to a full rifle, and I had just taken out the one agent who could have made their retake bearable. Wherever we went, it would be nearly impossible to retake without walking into strong crossfires. I don't have your city, Reina, careful.
Yeah.
One enemy remaining.
80.
Nice.
Nice.
Match point. One more round. One last push. Immortal was right here. And now I knew I could take it. Wele is tree.
Didn't she close? No. But I'm getting constantly slow.
Let's
fun, bro,
go!
have fun.
Hackers win.
Have a nice day.
You too, bro.
Finally, the red rank. I've been grinding for months to see this screen, and now it's finally here. But hold up, that was my rank up game? That mess of a performance? Yeah, we won, but if you watched the whole video, you know I didn't play like someone who belongs in this rank. So before we end, let's break this down. Let's look at what really matters. Consistency, because that's where the pro leave me in the dust. Take Derek for example. In his game, every single round has value. Sometimes it's a clean kill, sometimes it's a recon dart that sets up his teammates, sometimes it's cheap damage with a choke that forces enemies to back off. Nothing fancy, just impact round after round. Me, I had 2, maybe 3 good rounds, and the rest either I was tilted, late, or holding on to my utility like it was gold. And that's exactly the point. See, I realized something while rewatching this game. Pros don't chase perfection. Let me explain. Most of us try to make the perfect play. We wait for the perfect timing, the perfect dart, the perfect plan. But here's the truth. Valorant doesn't reward perfection. It punishes hesitation. More than half my deaths in this match, I died with all my utility still online, just because I was waiting for the perfect moment. Meanwhile, pros don't wait for perfect, they aim for good enough, because good enough wins rounds, and good enough over and over again wins game. There's a quote I love: better is the enemy of good. That was my biggest mistake in this game, trying to be better than I needed to be and ending up not being good at all. But what is achieving good enough? In my case, it starts with something as simple as dying with no utility left, or cooking a plane with 3 steps maximum. So yeah, I hit Immortal today, but if I want to stay here and if I want to go further, I need to stop chasing perfection and start playing good, consistent Valorant. If you made it to the end, first of all, thank you. This series takes time, focus, and a lot of trial and error, and knowing you're here watching means everything. See you next week for the next step of the journey.